All right, so we're going to do the first solo podcast episode for the Lizzy Jane podcast. I feel like I just got done with EDC Las Vegas. I had my first set ever. I did a lot of broadcasting work for Insomniac Radio. I've been going through a lot of personal changes in my life. The Ignite EP is out on Dome of Doom, 7 tracks, 1 story. And this is like the perfect time to do this. I've always wanted to do something like this in this space, just to not necessarily have this transparent conversation back and forth, but more just talk about me. And so now we're here doing it. So you are tuning in to the first solo episode. I think this is episode 130 on the Lizzy Jane podcast. And I'm your host, Lizzy Jane. I hope you guys have been having a really great week. I hope you guys, if you went to EDC Las Vegas, have been taking your immune shots, getting your liquid IVs, getting hydrated, hopefully getting some sleep. I'll say for me that personally, EDC Las Vegas was one of the craziest continuous amount of days that I've had in a very, very, very long time. I had like a very raving period, like most people in music and people listening to this who love raving and love the community and love the culture and still go to festivals and still, go to shows and everything. From like 2018, 19, 20 was a huge era of how many festivals can we do? How little food can I survive on? And how many new acts can I see and new people can I meet? And I think about my social battery then, all the while like being in school and working a full-time job. I have this like term I say, like crackhead hours. Like that whole entire series of years were like crackhead hours. And then after that, when I made the decision and the transition of let me start learning in the DAW, I downloaded Reason. That shortly became Ableton, certified in Pro Tools, understood the back and front of Logic for when I went to school. I made a full commitment to, I'm trying to do this in a serious manner, and I'm going to start DJing, but then I got tired of DJing, and I really wanted to play my own songs. So then from somebody who's been in music like their whole life, like total metalhead, total like classic rock chick, I was playing instruments and writing songs, but I didn't know the DAW. That's a whole different thing. I remember when I was like 13, 14, we would record in like SoundForge. And if you know what SoundForge is, it is like the dinosaur DAW that is as simple as can be. And I'm sure it can do a lot more than what we thought it was capable of doing at the time. We just needed a metronome and the thing to record. And we needed to know how to record ourselves. But then understanding, once I got in the DAW, post-processing and automation and sound design and mixing and everything that's like the technicalities that can make someone sound their sound, like a Subtronics or a Beast Boy or a Murata, that kind of technicality, while I do separate it from the actual musical composition, is so important. You can't do what we do in the DAW without understanding it. And it definitely is like the cherry on top. And I'm like a huge dessert girl and an ice cream sweets girl. And like if you're missing the sprinkles and like the cherry on top, then like why are you even eating it, And that was a very hard thing for me to really grasp my head around. I remember being at the Ritz as a resident DJ. My first time doing it was before I turned 21. And I remember staying up just all night, all the time, making terrible music, like Want, Stop, like some of the first records I put out. I was in a dubstep space. I was a resident on a dubstep night. It made sense. Metalhead, again, the song structures go hand in hand. You have the drop, you have, the breakdown in metal music. That's our drop in EDM music. And just how you would follow like a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, structure, bridge, yada, yada, yada in pop and traditional like rock music, country, whatever. And the musicality was always easy for me, but then I had to learn the DAW and master the DAW. And I like always say to whether they've taken like lessons with me through Patreon or before Patreon, the moment you start, you stop sucking. And that is the only way up and through and out if you want to be truly, truly an audio engineer, a producer, a musician, a creator, and, you know, not have this team behind you doing a lot of the work, which is sometimes next to near impossible when you get to be a certain act size. You know, if you're playing like 200 shows a year, it's very difficult to understand how to comprehend or conceptualize sitting down to write meaningful, lasting records when you kind of have this like pressure on your shoulders and you're touring the world all the time. Like, there's only so many hours in a day. But to me, I'm like a nerd squirrel brain, and like the technicalities of music and the perfectionist in me that sometimes is hindering. I had somebody say to me once, don't let perfection get in the way of excellence. And I think that like really stuck in my head, because art is art and art is biased, and you could put something out that somebody could love, and you could put something out that you love that somebody hates. And I think that's the beauty of what we do. But in such a trepidatious time in our industry where there's so many people who want to produce, there's so many people who want to DJ, there's so many people who want to do what we're doing, it's like, how are you unique? What is your brand? And all of this stuff. So when I started to fully commit on the other side, we shortly went into COVID, and I was 22. COVID happened. I had left my residency. The world had shut down. I had a lot of awesome tours that were confirmed that were going to be like my first national tours. And by that, I mean, I'm going to play every Florida date with them. I'm going to do the southeastern stops. And that was a huge step for me, especially coming from a localized position where I quite frankly was not looked at as a producer. And it made me really like reevaluate just a lot of stuff in my life and what I wanted my project to be and how I wanted to sound like. And am I using all of my strengths and my like accents to who I am as a person in my art? And that answer was no. That answer was no. And so then when I decided to really just start making music that wouldn't necessarily fit in the world of dubstep, Lizzy Jane, I really started to feel like I found my voice. And it took all of until this May to really put out a body of work to grant myself musical freedom. And in all of that, I really stopped like being part of the rave community. I stopped going out to shows unless I had very dear friends come in. And even when dear friends came in, we would do a podcast, or we would get food, or we would actually like spend genuine time together, because I love them as humans. And being backstage, it can be very chaotic, and you oftentimes appreciate the support. But I know like when I'm going to perform, I can't be like social butterfly. Like, I have a job to do, and I'm really thankful that everybody is there, but I'm focused on providing like the best performance for fans who are there, who have paid to be there, or new fans. And I'm supporting someone huge like a Mitis, and I'm like, these are my people, or Griffin, and these are my people. You need to like show out. And that is where my energy has to be focused during that time. So I know a lot of artists feel the same way. So whenever they do come and visit Denver, I'm like, let's go get breakfast. Like, let me pick you up from the airport. And it's a lot more of an enjoyable experience where we can actually catch up, have some time, and then they can rest before their shows. So as far as like my social battery, it is quite diminished over the years, from it being it's Lost Lands time, and it's EDC time, and it's festival time. And this was the first like 3-day, I mean, it felt like 2 weeks, the first 3-day event that I've been a part of proactively every day for the first time in a very long time. In a very, 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 very long time. And I will say props to the ravers out there, because it is not for the faint-hearted. It is not. Like, it is crazy. Like the people who were at Camp EDC, it was so hot. It was so hot. Because I was doing Insomniac Radio and I was doing my set as well, you know, we had times that we had to be there really early. The first day we were there was 3 p.m. The sun was baking and it was beautiful, but it was just draining. And you really had to make sure you stay hydrated. You had to make sure you were eating. And then we were prepping for all of these interviews. I sat down with some of the most influential names in dance music. I mean, Friday I sat down with Armin van Buuren. I sat down with Miles O'Neill, Shaquille O'Neal's son. That was so cool. Over the course of the weekend, I just sat down with so many friends, whether it was like Jeannie or Zoff or Mary Droppins or Coven, all the way to Griffin. And Griffin gave me my first Red Rocks opportunity. It was very cool to connect with people like them, Mitis, Blastoise, people I had toured with. Super insightful conversations, and I'm very glad that you guys will be able to hear them in the coming weeks, because I think that they were able to talk about things that they were super passionate about in the interviews, and it was just such large moments for all of them, and I felt super honored to be like a part of those moments. And, you know, everybody kind of rolls with the biggest teams for EDC. You've got the agent, and you've got the manager, and you've got the TM and stuff, but then you have like all the friends and the girlfriends and the boyfriends and mom and dad. And Midas specifically I don't know the exact story, but something had happened with the weather in previous years where he was not able to have his Kinetic Field debut or Circuit Grounds debut. And this year was the first time he played Kinetic Field. And for those who are not knowledgeable, Kinetic Field is the largest stage at EDC. To me, it looked like it held 100,000 people. I could be exaggerating, but also maybe I'm not. Like, I have no idea. I just know that when I got there on Friday, I looked out, and I mean, it's huge. It's on a racetrack, but racetrack sizes vary, I think. I don't know. Not the person to ask. And I could see like the dimensional facets of how far everything went out. But as the sun went down, I literally felt like it like came to life in this like weird 3D way that it just looked like this whole entire, like you could see the strip in Vegas. And then like, I felt like we had like our own strip at the Speedway where it just went on, and it was these huge infrastructures and art installations. And there's really not any words until you experience it, because this is also my first EDC. So I was going full in to work, to play, to put faces to names of people who I've developed relationships with online, artists I've worked with and spoken to online and never met in person. And everything like that happened and more, but you just had to take it in at moments, because you would kind of walk to the edge of the artist compound, like where we were playing. And there was just... it like gave me chills, which like that doesn't really happen when I like look at festivals, because you're like, festival, it's a festival. And I will say, my first festival was Electric Forest. Everybody said I ruined it for myself. It was such an amazing experience. I went right when I got out of high school. We took the bus from Florida. It was the most crazy time ever. And then festivals were just festivals. And you know, you have parking lot festivals, you have one-day festivals. This just doesn't even compare. Like it's seas of people, like 600,000 people over the course of 3 days. That's so hard to conceptualize. Like that's full cities. That's bigger than full cities. And everyone is so kind. Everyone is like full of like love. There were like the rave moms who stopped by, and there were people who like brought their grandma to their first rave. And it was just so crazy to me to see like the community. And I felt sad because I feel like it's gone on for so many years where I haven't been like on the ground around what made me fall in love with dance music, because I've been creating. And I feel like my journey is super interesting, and I wouldn't have it changed for any other way. But I just felt like taking a step back and saying, you've put your work in, like you've laid for anyone who's listened to the podcast before, like I always talk about with other artists, what kind of house, like what kind of universe are you going to build for your project? Like, are you going to build it of straw? Are you going to build it of stone? Are you going to build it of brick? Is it going to stand the test of time? Like, I know I've laid the strongest foundation possible for my project and for what I want it to be, this multi-genre faceted artist that can really reinvent herself and put out different types of music and also podcast and also do broadcasting. And like, I don't really know if that falls in the same bucket, but I love what I do, so I'm not going to not do it. And the podcast has become such a huge part of this project as well, where like it's not really directly associated with the art, but I feel like having these stories, having artists come on and tell their stories about their journeys have hopefully helped a lot of you guys. Like have hopefully either inspired you or showed you that maybe what you're going through is similar to what this artist went through, or some tips and tricks, just like simple things. And that's why I do it. And I felt like this weekend was like the pinnacle of like chapter 1 of what like Lizzy Jane looks like. Like, let me go, let me broadcast, let me do what I know I'm fucking good at doing. And then let me go like share my art with people and make people dance. Like, I think that's so cool. And through that, yeah, it didn't matter how early you thought you left, the sun would be coming up. Every time I was in the shuttle back, the sun would just start coming up. And it's like beautiful until you realize that you've been up since 10 a.m. and you're getting home at 8 a.m. and then you have to be back at 3 p.m. And it just kind of felt like a fever dream, like over and over and over again. And like the food became more like frickle, and I would catch myself like having a drink. And I was like, no, you're literally going to die. You cannot do that. And I would go from juice to immunity shot to cold brew to water to tequila. I think that was like my encompassing routine of the 3 days, just over and over and over again. But it was like so sick to have the opportunity to work with Insomniac Radio. I hope it is not the last time. I don't think it'll be the last time. I hope it is not the last time that I do stuff with them. Such a tight crew to work with. It's what I love doing. Like, I love working in music, and I think that there's more ways that I can add value than just creating art. And I'm going to do that, and I'm allowed to do that, then I'm going to do that. And I think that it has given me a sense of like fulfilledness in my journey that I didn't know I would really reach. And I'm very content with just keeping the consistency moving, and like the community's growing. And it's so cool to see people who discover me. It's so cool to see people who went to Red Rocks come to the set at EDC when I'm playing on like one of the smaller art cars. Like, it was very, very sick. I got sprouted. That was very fun. That was very cool. And then I got like some candy and like some little things that I'll keep in my studio. And it was just cool. Like, I love fans of dance music, and they are so genuine and they're so kind. And I'll always say, this was told to me, you can't choose your fan base, but my fan base is fucking awesome. And the people who I tour with, their fan bases are fucking awesome. And like, that's not always the case. So I'm so like blessed that that is the reality of the situation that I'm in. And I think from here, it's just, how do we make it bigger? How do we do more? How do I play a bigger set? We have so much music on the way, and it's like, it's just really exciting. And with that, it's coming off the tail end of like the debut EP Ignite coming out on May 3rd. And it has been a very long time, and I think far too long for me to put out an EP, but this meant so much to me. And like what I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's really granted me like musical freedom. And now I really hope that people who have taken the time to listen to it, as much as I want to like hold your hand and say, you need to look at the visualizers, and I want you to listen to it front to back, and this song means this and this song means that. Like, it's all art, and like, you're gonna like what you like. And it's been very fulfilling to me to do this on a very small label and do it exactly my way, the way I wanted it to be, and be rolled out, because you don't always get the privilege of having that choice and still have the support on it that we did. It's very cool. Like, it is so cool. Like, I got my biggest Spotify editorial placements yet. We have had artists who have reached out to it that have blown my mind, that want to remix some of the singles. And it's just going to keep building. And like, we're going to do a remix EP, and we're going to keep the wind of this. We're going to make a t-shirt. And we have some really, really awesome like coverage from like some blogs that are coming out and some magazines that are just like, is that like me there? Like, very kind of imposter syndrome. But I know I've worked my butt off. So I'm also like, let's go. I did do this like weird thing today where I posted on my stories about, I think I asked if you could ask any question in music, like touring, being a DJ, creating in the DAW, working in music, anything just about like a fan question, whatever, lifestyle question, ask it. So I'm going to do that now, and hopefully we'll inspire some, nice conversation from these questions. All right, sweet. So let's get into it. What was the light bulb moment in which you decided to go all in on pursuing music? Ooh. There's definitely some people who I won't mention who have come out of Tampa who are artists, and to me, those were my role models. Those were my examples. Those were I think everyone, when they're an artist and they're just starting out and they're local, they know someone, or they know someone's journey who's made it like just bigger, who has left the local circuit, who has left the regional circuit, who is making their own stuff. And now, while I say my example was not the best and didn't end in a great way, I knew that my residency at the Ritz could put me in front of the Florida community that I would never be able to garner myself with where my music was at the time. So I took it. And that's when I knew I would go full in. Like, there was no point in time where I had started that residency and said, this could be it. Like, this I could be content here. And it was you go and you don't leave that fucking residency until you keep going up. And now I will say, there is a generation of, I just talked about this on the Headliner's Mindset that I did with Nick the other day, which you guys should go talk to or listen to, because it is way more insightful about me diving into my own journey of my music journey, producer journey, podcast journey, and all that fun stuff. There is a generation of artists that COVID vastly affected. And I would like to say, while it's not an excuse, I was a part of that generation. And I had to take 2 steps backward to take 5 steps forward. And sometimes you have to do that. Like, sometimes you so have to do that. Like, how long do you want to be in this game? Do you want to be here for the next 2 years and do everything you want to do? Or do you want to be here doing stuff and actively working for the next 2 decades and then go on and do other cool shit in music? Like, you have to ask yourself those questions, because I think a lot of artists see like this path and they think that path is my path, but it's never going to be that way. So you can use that as like a stepping stone kind of deal, but your journey is not going to be like anyone else's journey, and you have to know what you want. Like, I want to say I'm a big journaler. I'm not a fucking big journaler, but I am a big advocate of writing things down. I think that like we're in this time where we're so in our phones. It's so easy to just like, I type things on my computer, I'll type notes, I'll do whatever, I have my agenda, but like to physically go like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What is my project representing? What is my sound going to be now but change to later? What is this universe around the CP? Like, what do you want? Like, that's super important, because if you don't know what you want, and there was a long time that I didn't know what I wanted, and other people got in my head and like dictated this kind of epitome of what I needed to be, then you can't stand your own ground. And it's really difficult as like a young woman being in music when everyone is older than you, everyone thinks they know more than you. That's not fucking true. It's not true. You know yourself the best. And I mean, there is no unless. Like, you know yourself the best. And you have to be so sure of your journey and so sure of how you want to communicate to the world, what kind of art you want to put out. There's so many influences around you that can affect the way that you perceive yourself, the way that you present yourself, the way that you develop down the road. And like, all I'll say is just know what you want. But the second I started at Ritz, I knew that this was not a hobby. This was you make this first jump to this stair step and you fucking stay there until you know how to produce music and you know the ins and outs and you know the technicalities and you at least know the rules in order to break them. And then when COVID hit, I really rethought about what I want the Lizzy Jane project to sound like, the universe I wanted it to live in and exist in. And that's how Ignite was born. And now that's out there. And now I get to like play around in drum bass and melodic bass and maybe some 130 stuff here and there. And like, maybe one day I'll do like small independent venue singer-songwriter shit where I do stripped down versions of all of my songs like I have for the EP, cough, cough. So it's cool. And like, if I have those capabilities, and like, why wouldn't I do it? Because I think the more that you can let fans see who you are and like transparently be like breaking down the fourth wall, especially after we were all like DJing in our fucking bedrooms for a year, I think the better. And that's how I've communicated with my fan base. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I know that's not like the brand and the look that works for everybody, but it's the one that's like fostered such a loving community in my own fan base. When collaborating, how difficult is it to balance the artist styles and sounds? So I'm a huge advocate for collaboration in person. I think that is the best, or like over Discord or just like together. I think that there's like a huge disconnect and I've done many collabs that we have hardly talked. We have exported the stems, we've sent them back and forth, and this unfortunately was during the era of which I didn't know what I wanted, and I thought the people who were older than me and more experienced than me knew better when they didn't. And those were all like learning lessons as a part of my journey. But if we're making art and we're artists, like, we need to like collaborate. I talk about in the podcast all the time. Collaboration is a huge thing that on a lower level in electronic dance music is not highly supported or encouraged. But then when you get to like a higher level of electronic dance music, you've got 20 people sitting in the room. You know, you've got songwriters, you've got producers, you've got writing camps, you've got people bouncing ideas back and forth. All of those things are so important to create the best art possible. I think when Ghost in Real Life was on the podcast, she said, I knew I had, like, if I was painting and I had the colors red and blue and they were super strong and I knew how to stroke it and I knew how to do the shading and I knew how to do all of that, but then I was like missing the color purple, and like this other artist had the color purple, why would I not borrow some of his purple as long as he's credited properly, involved in the music and the record correctly, and we're both on the same page? Like, that is a perfect analogy. And I don't know if it's an analogy or a metaphor, not the good grammar girl. It was perfect, a situation that I think paints it very easily for others to understand what collaboration looks like in the most beneficial and appropriate way. For one that doesn't know how much about music theory, what's the best way to go about learning to produce EDM? Ooh, YouTube University. God, Patreon. There's so many things now. My feet are becoming numb. There's so many things now that are out there, and I think that is a advantage and disadvantage because it's harder. It's harder than ever to become a unique act. But if you're just getting in the basics, man, I would say Patreon, because there are some cracked producers out there who have phenomenal Patreons. There's some cracked producers out there who do one-on-one lessons that are part of their like tiered structures. And it gives you the opportunity. There's nothing more that has helped me either collaborate with someone who's better than me, which I always strive for that, or take a private one-on-one lesson where I can really pick someone's mind on how they would do something, because there's a million ways to do the same thing. It's you have to make the conscientious decision on how you're going to do it and what is the best way for you and your sound and your workflow, like in the DAW itself. So with that, I'll let you take it. But if you have no budget and you just want to learn how to create music, go to that search bar on YouTube and say, how do I sound like Virtual Riot? How do I sound like Cascade? How do I sound like More Kismet? How do I sound like Rez? And you will find a plethora of knowledge. But you have to be dedicated enough to put the phone away, actually obtain that knowledge, take notes, implement it in the DAW, which all DAWs have free trials, and see if you like it or not. How do you sell more tickets? Ooh, the soft ticket versus hard ticket conversation. So soft tickets are like your average club shows, your Tampa Fam, your Ritz Ybor, your Temple nightclub, your any club really is mostly soft ticket driven. Now, when you get to music venues that are, usually you see different types of music in them. Specifically in Denver, you have like Cervantes, you have Ogden. In St. Pete, you have Janus, you have RIP, you have the Orpheum in Tampa. Those are hard ticket venues, and you can get programmed in soft ticket clubs very easily. And I think it's a great way to build your following, but not necessarily build your value within a market. And I could be talking out of my ass here, but we've done a ton of very small hard ticket headlines, and I would rather do that than play a festival any day, because I know that I'm garnering fans and I'm getting actual data of where my project stands in every market. Because you can't just do it in Florida, you can't just do it in New York, you can't just do it in LA, you can't just do it in Chicago, you can't just do it in Austin, Texas. You got to do it everywhere. And the best way to do that is like work from the ground floor up. Now, do people have viral moments and they blow the fuck up? For sure. Do people have hits and one-hit wonders and X, Y, and Z? Yeah, but usually when that happens, their journey is a lot longer than what you have been able to digest thus far. Usually at that point, they've been a part of another project, they've gone through a rebrand, they've done a new sound change. Something has happened to be that one thing that after all of this consistency, it's finally just hit. So I feel like selling more tickets, I mean, it's just everything now can help. Social media presence, labels you're releasing on, the consistency of releasing music. Maybe you've got a remix or a bootleg that's gone viral, TikTok, like things that I'm just quite frankly terrible at. Like all of these things can go into your hard ticket value, but and I know it's hard because it's like a hit to the ego, and every artist has an ego. Not one artist I've met doesn't have a fucking ego. It's a hit to the ego when you go and you play a show and there's like 20 people there. I remember I played a show in Raleigh, North Carolina. Shout out Space Camp. It was my first time there. I had Raleigh, North Carolina, no market history, nothing even near there that I've ever done. And these guys were like, we want to bring her out. It's going to be like this bar we're bringing sound into. And I feel like there were 40 or 50 people there. And it was so much fun. But you're still like, fuck, I just traveled across the whole entire country and I'm playing to 40 or 50 people. But you know what? Like, those are 40 to 50 people. Like, it's like, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? Like, that's how you have to look at it, because there are acts that are support acts more so than not their whole entire fucking life. And you have to make the differentiation of, am I gonna be a support act that eventually transitions into a headliner, or am I going to be a support act forever? And that answer of comfortability and aspiration is different for everyone. So you just have to figure out what that is to you. Again, that goes back to the beginning question of like, what do you want as an artist? What do you want for your project? What do you want for you as an individual? Because there are quick ways to do things, and then there are long roads to do the same thing, but most of them depend on what your end goal is. So with that, you just have to know what you want and know how to chase it, know what circles to associate yourself with, know what labels to go after, know what imprints to go after, and just like take opportunities as they come. But I'll also say the power of no is very, 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 very strong. The power of no goes a long way. And at one point, you have to not be an egotistical asshole, but also know your worth. And if things come that don't make sense anymore for you or your project or where your goals are at, it's just like in your personal life, then like you need to cut them out. Don't partake in them, because I'll tell you one thing, it is miserable to get the gold star for playing a festival and then show up, have to rent a car, you're getting paid little to no money, you're playing for maybe 20 people, and you've gone under and you're basically paying to play. And that's the harsh reality of what like a lot of artists deal with right now, where their name looks like nice and pretty on the festival lineup, but they're not benefiting from it. And now like whether they're growing with a promoter or they're playing the long game or this is something they've wanted forever, that is all like your personal bias of how you want to approach your project. But if you're trying to run a business, which is essentially what this is at the end of the day, you eventually have to aspire to turn a profit. And that is not the way. Go play headline shows, go support larger artists in that market, go build your actual value, and then approach the festivals. That's my 2 cents. Festivals are so fun, and I wish I could be on every single fucking festival in the whole world. I know that time will come, but I also know that doing it the way that I just explained it is really, really, really disheartening and hard. It's just hard. All right. So how do you find the inspiration to write and produce music? What are your favorite things about touring? Favorite things about touring are seeing new cities. I've been doing better than ever of getting somewhere as early as possible, trying to hit the gym so I feel semi-awake, trying to go to bed the night before I leave at like a non-crackhead hour, and exploring the city, like really just like walking around. I try and get a hotel that's in a centralized area. I try and at least see some things, but that's not always the case. And like if I'm in Kentucky, it's like probably not going to go walk around. But if I'm in like New York or Brooklyn or LA or whatever, like maybe I stay an extra few days, like maybe I do that. I think that has garnered like some crazy life experiences for me that I love. And for touring, it's really cool to see how I'll play one set in one city and it like pops the fuck off, and then I'll play one set in another city and you're like, ooh, they didn't feel it as much. And so it's like those different tastes and loves for subgenres and the way that my discography is and flows is going to be different in every place. And as I get to play more cities consistently, I get to kind of get a feel for like what these fan bases love. And then I know like when I tap into Chicago, they're getting the drum and bass. When I tap into Seattle, they're getting more of the melodic stuff and like the cry banger stuff and more singing than I would do in Chicago. So it's kind of just that toss up, and I love that. It's like a game to me that I have so much fun playing. And as far as like finding inspiration to write and produce music, at this point, I don't force myself. I write as it comes. Like it does take not to be determined, but to be consistent. You have to put yourself in the DAW, because the more that you put yourself in the DAW, the more that you have. Kind of like the more you do it, the more there's like a window of opportunity for you to do something that you really like from it. That's how I feel about writing music. So it's a balance. I just am not going to put myself in front of my computer in the DAW to write music when I know that my mind's not in the right place, or I'm experiencing burnout, or I'm coming back from EDC and like I am really inspired, but I need time to process before I sit down and actually have the patience with myself to elaborate on how I'm feeling and like how I can put that into a melody. What's been the most eye-opening when it comes to playing in front of crowds? Ooh, it's definitely a toss-up between like, again, reading your crowd and then maybe making changes mid-set, like saying, I'm going to throw this around, or maybe I'm going to go to this section from this other set because they really love this, but then the second I started doing this, they weren't really feeling it. And because I'm so like multi-genre versed, I can do that. And it's not like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And it's super fun and I love it. How does one become a tour manager? Tour management and stuff like that. You've got, I would like to say you've got like the serious TMs that are literally like the parents of the music industry that make sure their artists get to the plane they need to be on the next day and make it home from the after party and run their visuals. And sometimes they're their photographer and they are doing the hotels and they're doing the flights. And, you know, that level of TM it's like a godsend. I want to shout out Aaron real quick. He TMs for, hopefully he'll see this, but he TMs for like everyone in the game. And I was with him at EDC and we were picking up credentials and I saw him in the room and he's like, I'm picking up credentials for like 5 artists. And I just started fucking cracking up because when you're a TM and you're good at your job, you are highly desired. There are not a lot of people who are good at TMs because I will say 9 times out of 10 besides one person in particular that has absolutely killed it, they are usually there to party and they are there to fuck off and they are there to not do the job they're there to do. And it is very easy if you have an artist that is self-sufficient that you don't need a TM. You don't until you're at a certain level. At a certain level, you need a TM, but at that point, it's a TM that has a resume. They work for a company. They do X, Y, and Z, and they've worked with a million people and they know how to run a tight fucking ship. And there is a huge like middle ground that is muddy between I'm your TM for the weekend and I'm actually just your friend and I'm a TM and you report to me and I know everything that's going down and you don't talk to anybody else but me. And if you have a question, I'm going to be the one to answer it. That TM is like, again, a godsend, like a very difficult role to sit in. And I think one of the hardest in the music industry if you do it well. So again, I think like if you wanted to be a TM, you start by working for one of your friends, like start by reaching out to a small to mid-size act and just say, hey, I would love to come and handle this, but don't expect payment because that I also think comes with like the actual value. Like if you're paying a TM to be a TM, they better be doing a TM's job. If you are just doing it for experience for the time being, try and do it in your market. Like if you live in Texas and you live in Austin and, you know, a lot of like artist hospitality stuff I think can go really well into being like TM. Like try and just get involved in your local clubs and meet teams that are coming through and then use that as a window of opportunity to say, hey, if you ever need someone for this or if you need help with this or if you need someone to come along and assist, like I'm happy to do it. But just be prepared to foot your own bill until you've actually worked with credible artists. Okay, we're on to the next account of questions. I hope you guys enjoy this. If not, it's just going to be super annoying and I will never do it again. And you can tell me to never do it again. All right. We are now on the Bird app. I guess it's X now, isn't it? All right. So, how do you best take care of your mental health? The gym, exercising, yoga. Now taking that on a more personal level and cutting out people who don't add value into my life. Your energy is so important. Your energy is so important. If you don't spend your energy in the right places, this industry is draining. The people who you can be around on a daily basis are draining. Power of no. Again, I said it in booking. I'll say it in like your personal mental well-being. This is like not for the faint-hearted. We are so incredibly privileged to be able to do what we do and love what we do and be able to pursue it as an actual career. But it is not for the faint-hearted. And there are a lot of people in this industry that just want to, there's a lot of people in life, not just this industry, this in life, whether it's another industry profession, another job, music, whatever, that just want to take, and have nothing to give back. No compassion, no charismatic mannerisms. It's what can you do for me? And it's like my way or the highway type of deal. And I have an incredibly small circle, I think because of that. And if I didn't have the gym and I wasn't, now I'm definitely way more athletic than I have been in a very long time, which has been really great for my mental clarity and my energy and just how I feel about myself in general. it provides a huge outlet for me. And obviously living in Colorado, I am able to do more things than just be in the gym. Like it could be weightlifting, it could be yoga, it could be snowboarding, it could be hiking, it could be an array of things. And that's why I can never really see myself leaving somewhere that doesn't have that like nature outlet. Because it has given me the most clarity that I've ever had in my life. And then also just cutting out people who don't add value. And I'm not saying everyone has to be like 5 levels above you. I think that's super unrealistic. But you are the 5 people who are closest to you and you associate with, you know, you are who you associate with. Like, that's it. Like, you can have acquaintances. Like, you can have so many acquaintances. You can have people you consider friends, but you're not like, tell me your deepest secrets. Like, the people who are close to you, you have to trust them. You really have to trust them. You have to make sure you're in a safe space. And that's like very often in this industry, like your management and your significant other and maybe your best friend. And if those things are tarnished, then it can affect everything from your creativity to your mental well-being to how you are on the road to how you progress in your project. And I just think it's different for everyone. But me personally, it's fitness, keeping the circle small, and really dictating where my energy goes and being selfish in that manner. Okay, next one. Why is everybody so tired? Because they don't take care of themselves. That's why everybody's so fucking tired. You have to take care of yourself in a party industry. That is, and this is me coming off of Vegas where I've seen more partying than I think that I need to see for the next year. Just being transparent and quite frank, which is fine. Like, we work in dance music, but it also comes with a balance. Like, you got to have a detox. You got to have a limit. You have to have a point where you put your foot down or you will get chewed up and spit out. And that's at all levels. You can be a local DJ and go through the same shit. You don't have to be playing EDC on Kinetic Field. Like, I've witnessed in all parts of my journey people where alcohol and substances have gotten in the way of how talented they are and how hardworking they are. And again, I think it's different for everyone, but I came home from EDC and I had 12 hours of delayed flights and I'm tired and my voice just came back, but I'm okay. But you know why I'm okay is because I didn't use drugs all weekend and I didn't drink my weight in liquor. And I think that that's fine, but I'll very transparently say that's not how I choose to surround something that I'm so passionate about, because all I need like is the music. Like, I've always been that way. I will always be that way. I love a good cocktail. I love a good party night, but I also know when it's time to go home. And I know that for my mental well-being, the way that I choose to present myself, the way that I want people who are associated with me to perceive me, there is a fine line in which I am not comfortable crossing. And the people who cross those, like, fuck yeah, like, do it. Like, but it's your life and it's my life. And that's how I approach it. And I think that people get so tired because there's a way to do it on the road to take care of yourself. And I see it in artists all the time who do it very well. And there's a way to not do it to a point where you get to burnout. Everyone's going to be tired. Everyone's going to need to sleep for 40 hours after EDC Las Vegas. You know, your sleep schedule gets like flipped upside down. It's the beginning of festival season. There's tons of teams that were there last weekend who were partying for 4 days straight, and they're off to new festivals this week. Like, if you have that and you never have a reset period, that's hard. That's super hard. But then I think it means that, like, you have to tighten up and you have to take better care of yourself than you normally would if you had that grace period of time where you could reset yourself. Okay, next question. What's the hardest part about it all? Ooh, for me, it's the comparison for sure. The comparison, the comparison and what? Jealousy is the thief of joy. I think that's what it is, or comparison is the thief of joy. I don't know. I'm getting better at it for sure. And I think a lot of it comes with just personal insecurities and personal things that have happened on my journey where you go, damn, like, I think I was very naive for a very long time. Like, I still don't know a lot of people in this industry. Like, I didn't have an uncle who worked in music. I didn't have a friend or a boyfriend or someone who was savvy in the music industry or held my hand and said, this is the way you do things and this is what you need to stay away from. I've seen it all. And I think that I am still sometimes try and see the better side of things when I shouldn't, because it's not pretty. But I think that for a long time, I just kept asking myself, why her? Why them? I don't understand why my time hasn't come yet. I don't understand this. I don't understand that. But then you see this like really not pretty underbelly of a lot of whys that I asked in 2019, 2020. And those projects just aren't here anymore. And they're not doing what they loved, and they didn't put their time in, and they kind of got picked up and chewed up and spit out by the music industry. And for that, now I feel just like sadness for them. But at the time, in your head, you're just like, fuck, like, I just don't understand why it's not happening. And I probably could say that now in certain lanes of my career for sure. But I'm very content because I think now I'm really making the art that I love making. I'm doing this that I love doing. I'm communicating to people in ways that I feel comfortable and not cringy and authentic. And we're in a time where people can see just straight through that. And it'll work. But again, it's like, do you want a quick pop or do you want to be here for a really long time? And I think whatever your answer is to that as an artist or an industry professional or just in any career path, whether that answer is yes to the quick pop or yes to the longevity, then you go about things differently. And that's all it is. But yeah, the comparison's really hard. I still struggle with it all the time, especially being a woman. All the time. It's difficult. And I'm not going to not say it's difficult because I know that so many of my colleagues go through this all the time. So many artists that I love that make some of the best fucking art ever, like, haven't had their moment yet. And when you've been chasing after your moment for a really long time, like, things can get hard. But again, if you're being authentic and you're doing stuff that you really love for the right reasons, at the end of the day, it won't be like the quitting factor as to why you walk away from it. Oh, I forgot. I posted on one more platform. Okay, last round of questions, and then I will let you go. Oh boy. All right. How do you handle burnout? You handle burnout by walking away. I handle burnout by doing everything and anything but being on social media and doing music. And that's very difficult because I'm on my phone all the time. If I told you my screen time, you would probably throw up. And I think that with that, again, Colorado, hiking, go on a hike, go on a run, go slam it out at the gym, go to an awesome restaurant, go and just try and do anything and everything but actually work on music until you feel better. And you have to put a time limit on that, especially if you're pursuing this in a career manner, because at the end of the day, it is business. I can't like shut the lights off at McDonald's and like say see you in 14 days, but everyone needs a reset period. Everyone does. There's no one that can do this and actively tour and actively work a day job and actively do whatever else you're doing to provide for yourself and not get burnt out. Like, it's just not possible. How to find a booking company. So by this, I'm going to take that as how to find an agent. I don't have an agent. I think that like you create your own wave, and especially now where you see in the climate of agencies that there's a dedication to building new projects and really helping those acts come to fruition, but not like there used to be. You really should focus on creating community, focus on creating demand for yourself, focus on the hard ticket value, do whatever you have to do to focus on those things, and don't just sign with an agency to sign with an agency to, again, have that gold star of having your name on the website, because the reality of that is that a lot of people that get with agencies it doesn't come to fruition how they imagine it coming to fruition. You are always going to be the only person who creates your own momentum. No VP at whatever agency or manager at whatever management company is going to be able to do that for you and actually create the career that is going to like stand the test of time. You are the only one who can cut the records. If there's a team behind you cutting those records for you, then you better have a personal trainer, your brand better be on point, your community better be flourishing, and you better be doing stuff to tap into every single person who loves electronic dance music possible to keep building your scope and like your network and the people who you associate yourself with and the fans that have invested in you yourself as a person and your music. How do you stay on routine while touring, working out, eating healthy, things like that? Thankfully, I would not say I'm full-time touring. I would say I am touring. I would not say I'm full-time touring. There are very few months where I'm gone every weekend. Like July will be one of those months. So fucking excited. Like, I'm like, yes, I'm ready for it. But I think that when the time comes for when that's every weekend for me, that will be a different conversation of a whole new adaptation of things that I really have to focus on. I cook at home. I eat clean when I'm at home. I have forced myself to start working out on days that I travel for shows because it makes me feel like I've already accomplished something and I am in the right mindset. You just have to do it. You just have to have the diligence to do it and the work ethic to do it, just like anything else in life. What are some good outlets for artists to get more exposure? Social media, social media, social media. I know you don't want to hear it. That's what it is. And I am a girly who created a podcast because she can't look at a video and create content without her feeling like she is the most cringe person in the world. And this is the way that I like communicating with you guys. Like, I rather cut clips from this and say, this is like who I am and this is what I'm about, than doing those videos. And do I still do them? Yes, because this is a job and social media is a blessing and a curse, but it is one of the best ways to grow your following, period. Make those bootlegs, make those remixes, work on original content and work on cutting original records, but like, you know the answers to this, you just don't want to do them and you just have to do them. Talk about navigating misogyny within the industry. I'm all ears. Ooh. I surround myself with good guys. I will say that. My management, my guy friends who are artists, if there's not respect for me, they don't have a place within my network. And while I am sad to say that is not the reality within a lot of women's projects that I know, it is something that happens all the time. And I think women in positions of power, which now there are more than ever, and I'm not saying artists, I'm saying agents, I'm saying A&Rs, I'm saying label managers, I'm saying managers in general, tour managers, production managers that are women. Women are fucking bosses and they help control the situation. And I think that we are women for a reason, and women provide a huge insight and value to the music industry, and the men who choose to treat women as equals and put them in positions of power to the point where they can dictate who's in a position of power are like God sent, because there are men out there who exist who treat women like that, even though there are a lot that don't. And with the ones who don't, you have to choose whether it's worth it for you to have them around you and you do the smile and wave type of thing and you blow it off your shoulder, or you choose if it's worth it to you to address it. I think, again, energy and like your peace is so worth it, and it's not always worth the fight. It's not always worth the fight. Power of no, power of choosing who to associate yourself with and confide in for advice pertaining to your career or your personal life. All of those are things that you do have control over. There are a lot of things in this industry that you do not have control over. And sometimes it is people that will be alongside you working. But I will be thankful to say that it has been a very, very, very long time that I've been made to feel uncomfortable by a man that has been around me in the workplace. And I think that's awesome. My one question that I haven't seen anyone cover is, how can someone who hasn't been involved in music scene industry since the MySpace era, music era, get in today's music industry? Oof, you were around much, much before me, my friend. Use your network, because I guarantee you that there's people that are still, who were around in the MySpace era, around today, and they've put their fucking time in, and they're probably killing it. So you can kind of approach it one of two ways, I feel. Like, you can go through your social media contacts, really reach out. And again, this is all, people are not in this industry to make money. If you're in this industry to make money, you're in the wrong fucking industry. It's a long time before you see a profit in any position, period. And reach out, try and become involved. Say, I can add value here, create a great resume. Whether that's you being back in local music venues, whether that's you, I don't know what you did before, whether that's you being involved in Reddit communities and working with artists that way, whether that's you being involved with artist teams and being a TM, a stand-in TM, or a stand-in production manager, or a stand-in lighting designer, whatever these guys need. Like, use LinkedIn. I will say everyone, but like artists, maybe artists do. I just don't keep mine updated. People use LinkedIn. People use job sites. Like, go and like do the work and figure out what your value is, how you can add it, and where it's missing in whatever kind of division that you wanted to work in. That's like my best advice. Hopefully that will suffice with you. Okay. Sweet. Well, guys, you have officially tuned into the first solo Lizzy Jane podcast episode. If you loved it, leave a comment. If you hated it, leave a comment, because I will not do this again. I think this was cool. I never answer questions like this, so maybe like once a quarter, once every few months, we'll do something like this when I have like a lot of stuff going on, and then we can do the whole question thing. Hopefully you guys found this insightful. Again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, my own personal journey. This is not a right, wrong, black or white type of conversation. I'm going based on how I see things, of what has happened to me in my 6 years of existing in music. So I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon.